You ever sent a text and a reply you get is just completely off? Or you're reading an email and you're just thinking, what are they really trying to say here? We've all been there, right? We're constantly trying to bridge that gap between what someone says and what they actually mean. It's a huge part of how we communicate, and it forces us to keep asking one simple question.
Right? This is the question. It's at the heart of everything. We're all detectives in our daily lives, constantly decoding, looking past the simple words on the surface to get to the real meaning underneath. It's a skill we use all the time, probably without even noticing.
I mean, think about it. If your boss comes over and says, "We need more hands on this project," you don't start literally looking around for spare hands. Of course not. You instantly know they mean they need more people, more help. Your brain just automatically jumps over the literal meaning and lands right on what was intended.
But here's what's so fascinating. This whole puzzle, this modern problem of ours, it's not new at all. In fact, this exact challenge, how to figure out what someone truly intends, was meticulously studied and turned into a whole system over 1,000 years ago.
And that system is called Usool Ul Fiqh. It's the principles of Islamic jurisprudence. Think of it as the core methodology, the operating system, that jurists use to understand sacred texts and work out legal rulings. And at the absolute center of it is this incredibly deep and sophisticated way of understanding language.
Now, to build a system like this, you've got to have a starting point, right? A default setting for every single word. Well, in Islamic legal theory, that baseline concept is called Haqeeqat.
So Haqeeqi is the literal truth. It's the dictionary definition, the first thing you think of when you hear a word. That's always your starting point. But, and this is the really brilliant part of the system, it's all about knowing exactly when it's time to move past that literal meaning. And the jurists laid it all out for us. They identified 5 key situations, 5 specific clues that tell you, okay, time to set aside the literal definition, because the speaker definitely meant something else. So let's walk through all 5 of them.
All right, let's dive into the first one, which is probably the most intuitive. This is when the common, everyday use of a word completely overrides its dictionary definition.
This principle has a name, dalalatul urf. Urf basically means custom, or what is known among people. And the idea is pretty simple. Law is for people. So the way people actually talk, the way they use language in their daily lives, that's powerful evidence of what they mean. Common usage wins.
And this is just timeless. A classic legal text gives this fantastic example of someone making a vow not to eat eggs. Now, does that mean any egg on the planet? Like a tiny sparrow egg? Of course not. It's understood to mean the kind of eggs people actually eat, from a chicken. We use the exact same logic today. If your friend says they've quit drinking soda, you know they mean Coke or Pepsi, not every single carbonated beverage that exists.
Here's a really clear technical example. The word Hajj in Arabic, its literal, rote meaning is just to intend a journey. But because of urf, because of custom, if somebody makes a vow to perform Hajj, well, everybody on earth knows that means one specific thing, the pilgrimage to Mecca with all the rituals that go along with it. The common usage is what gives the word its real legal power. Okay, on to our next 2 cases, and these are all about one thing. Context. Jurists realized you have to look for clues, not just out in society, but right there in the conversation itself, both inside the sentence and in the words surrounding it.
So they basically broke it down into 2 types of contextual clues. The first one is a clue you find inside the sentence itself. The way it's built, the grammar, it creates its own limits. The second clue comes from the surrounding conversation, where the vibe and flow of what's being said can completely flip the meaning of a word.
Let's look at that first type, a clue inside the sentence. A classic example from the texts is a master declaring, "Every slave I own is free." The key words there are "I own." That little phrase acts as a built-in limiter. It means the statement doesn't apply to a slave he might co-own with someone else. The sentence's own structure sets the boundaries.
Now, what about this surrounding context? Okay, this example is seriously powerful. Imagine a battle. A Muslim soldier tells an enemy, "Step down." In that context, that phrase is a promise of safety, of sanctuary. But what if he adds just a few more words? Step down if you are a man. Boom. The entire meaning flips 180 degrees. It's no longer a promise, it's a taunt, a threat, and that promise of safety is gone. That's the power of the surrounding context.
All right, for our last 2 cases, the focus shifts. We move away from just the words and look at 2 other huge factors.
First, who is the person speaking? And second, what's actually possible in the real world?
So the fourth clue is all about the speaker, their nature, their identity. It all matters. And the fifth and final clue looks at the situation itself, and it kicks in when the literal meaning is just impossible or totally absurd.
So let's check out case number 4, the nature of the speaker. The source material brings up a verse from the Quran that says, "So whoever desires believe, and whoever desires disbelieve." Now, if you take that literally, it sounds like free permission to disbelieve. But because the speaker is understood to be God, who is all-wise and would never approve of disbelief, jurists say, no way. This can't be permission. It has to be a warning. And we use this exact logic. A parent, looking at their kid who isn't studying, says, "Go ahead, fail your exam." We all know, because it's a parent speaking, that it's a warning, not an endorsement.
And that brings us to our final case, when reality just makes the literal meaning flat out impossible. This example is incredible. You have a 50-year-old master who says of his 60-year-old slave, "This is my son." Well, that's biologically impossible, right? So since the literal meaning is just absurd, the law has to find the next closest intended meaning. And in that specific legal time and place, declaring a slave as your son was a known way of setting him free. Reality itself forced everyone to reinterpret the words.
So when you take all 5 of these clues and put them together, you start to see it's not just a list of rules, it's a profound way of understanding how language and people actually work. The common thread here, the thing that ties all 5 cases together, is this. Language is a human tool for a human world. Real meaning isn't just sitting in a dictionary. It's shaped by our customs, by the context of a conversation, by who's talking, and by the basic logic of reality. This was never meant to be a rigid robotic system. It's a smart, flexible framework built to understand what people truly mean. And that kind of leaves you with one final thought. In our world today, a world of text messages, tweets, and emails, where our words are so often just stripped of all context, of who we are, and of the real-world situation, what do we risk losing when we forget this ancient wisdom? When we forget that words are always, always more than what they seem?